Hey, welcome to the next episode of Old Iron Talk. I am sitting in for Callie, who is the pro at this, and I am the beginner. So you're going to have to bear with the mistakes. But we've also got Jake Winn here, and Jake just joined Aumann Auctions as a West Coast representative, and we're glad you're in Nokomis.
Yeah, a little bit of a flight out here.
Come to Grand Central for what are you out here for?
Initiation would be a good a good start.
Yep, we're going snipe hunting tonight.
No, just get caught up with all the stuff that I need to get going with the job and learn what I can.
Yeah. So we've already had you at work. So
for 5 years now.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we've known each other forever.
Quite a long time.
You knew me when I was skinny.
There's that.
Yeah, there's that. Exactly.
You knew me when I was, skinnier too.
Yeah.
Less facial hair.
So you've been in tractors forever. I mean,
I bought my first tractor when I was 9.
What was it?
John Deere LA.
John Deere LA. That's the last time I could fit on an LA when I was 9.
It was, it was a tractor.
Yeah.
And I bought it with my own money, and so I was excited. It didn't last very long. I got something better. Got a John Deere B.
All right.
A little bit of an upgrade.
Yeah, so it's like what prompted that? 9 years old, that's pretty early.
So my dad, mechanic, for the state of Oregon, grew up on a farm, been around tractors. Grandpa bought and sold stuff. My dad was a mechanic. He worked on it. There was always John Deere stuff because that's what sold. When Grandpa was buying and selling, that's what sold. And a lot of two-cylinder stuff.
So your grandpa was he was buying and selling probably tractors to use, or was he buying and selling collector?
No, not collector stuff. This was, back in early 80s.
Yeah.
Dating myself.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of stuff. It wasn't for farmers. It was for guys who were hand and, all that kind of stuff. And so Dad was working on them, and, we hear about other people that are collecting this. Started getting, the Two-Cylinder Club newsletter when Leroy Klein was doing it out of North Dakota. And so, I've been involved with it.
Yeah, I remember I saw like a picture. You was at the very first Two-Cylinder Expo.
Yeah, 1987, shaking hands with Robert Hansen.
There you go. You were a child.
I was 9.
There you go.
That was our first big family road trip, was to Waterloo, Iowa.
That's cool. So out in Oregon.
Correct.
All these Midwestern people, they don't know that they think Oregon is just like West Coast. When I've been out to visit you, what astonished me about that was how much farming.
Oh, absolutely. And the diversity.
And the diversity of the farming.
Yeah.
There were hops growing by your place last time I was out there.
The valley where I live, the Willamette Valley. I don't know.
Willamette?
Willamette.
Okay, so see, the Southern Illinois guy says Willamette.
Yeah, it's Willamette.
Yeah, okay. That's how it's supposed to be pronounced.
Correct.
All right, I got you.
We grow a lot of seed crops, specialty seed crops, grass seed, radish seed, sugar beet seed. We have nurseries. We've got hops. We've got vineyards. We've got, you name it. It's the only thing soybeans don't grow there, and no citrus.
Really, but everything else is...
Caneberries, cherries were a big thing around Salem back in the 40s and 50s. Columbia Gorge, and a lot of cherries and apples up in there.
So people, I think people don't understand how much ag goes on in that area, and then directly how many tractors ended up in that area.
Correct.
Cool tractors. Grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. I sit here in Illinois and I look out there and I'm like, God, they got all the cool tractors. So what kind of tractors?
We got everything. Orchard tractors, standard tread tractors. Central Oregon, the high desert, there's wheatland tractors out there. They're high crops for the nurseries. Washington is very similar, and then we got similar stuff coming up from California. Southern Oregon, there's a lot of potatoes, and Eastern Oregon, same thing, potatoes and sugar beets.
Yeah, so I mean, it made for like weird configuration tractors,
Single front wheels, orchards,
long axle,
long axles, skinny tires. The Lindemann crawler, Washington,
right?
And people in the Midwest think, oh my gosh, there's Lindemann crawler. Lindemann's, I hate to say it, but I kind of look over them anymore just because they're easy to find.
Well, I remember one time I told you, I said, I'd really like to have a little BR, and you looked at me like I was nuts. Like, why would you want a BR?
I like those tractors a lot, but they're common. I mean, granted, that's changing,
Right. But it's like the B row crop in the Midwest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got, and starting back early D's and Waterloo boys were shipped out there. But all the way through 10, 20, 30 series, new generation stuff, and the weird stuff that shows up. There were 30-10, 30-20 orchards around us.
Mm.
I know where there's a 4230 low profile power shift 5 miles from my house, still being used.
And now the influx of listeners that are going to be out there scouring 5 miles from your house.
You won't find it easily, and like I say, it's not for sale.
Yeah,
I've tried, and serious people have tried.
I've always thought that was kind of fascinating, that area, because just the diversity of the crop and how much of it was ag, because I mean that was the main industry.
Absolutely.
And there was just so many tractors that ended up there, and nobody thinks about it.
And all brands. We had dealers, John Deere, my primary focus, but Moline, Oliver, Case, Ford's, everything was there.
So how's tractor collecting on the West Coast different than the old Corn Belt in the Midwest?
We don't have the same amount of collectors. Back here, the farming being a little different, and our weather has something to do with it too. Wintertime back here, everybody goes to their shop and tinkers on stuff. Our farming season is 9-10 months out of the year, whether it's spraying, harvest. Most of our harvest starts, middle of June, and will run through October. That's not counting any dirt work or anything like that. That's just harvest, just because of the different crops.
Right.
So
you can rack up a lot of hours on a tractor out there.
Absolutely. And so the collecting is different. I mean, there's still a lot of collectors, and there's good interest with youth. Probably not as much as there is back here. But at our local show, we see, like this last year, the amount of young people that were involved has grown a lot. The hobby isn't dying; it's just changing.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because since I've been in a tractor, so 30 years, almost 40 years now, I have heard from the beginning, oh, the hobby's dying. Oh, the young people are not interested, and I'm just like you. I see the exact opposite. I mean, I see more. I told a guy the other day, I said, I see more young people getting into this hobby than I've ever seen before. And he said, well, that's because you're getting old. And I'm like, well, point taken. But, I think one of the things that has brought all these young people in, and you're a perfect guy to discuss this with, is, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. But social media has brought people into this hobby. So you're an administrator on the
Two Cylinder Club of Facebook.
Two-Cylinder Club of Facebook, which has how many members?
I think we're over 60,000 now.
Oh yeah, I think you're way over that.
Probably 70. I don't know. It's a lot.
Callie, can you look that up and see how many members Two-Cylinder Club of Facebook has? But it is exponentially more than the real the real Two-Cylinder Club, the Two-Cylinder Club that sends you the magazine.
Correct.
I mean, it's 10 times.
And
why?
It's easy. I think cost has something to it, and part of it.
67,000.
It's a huge outreach. It's easy to find information. Some of it may not always be as accurate as you'd like it to be, but it's easy. Hey, I just bought this tractor, or it was my grandpa's tractor. I want to get it running. If you sent that into a magazine, it's going to be 3-4 months before you get a response.
If you get a response.
If you get a response, no matter what brand it is, no matter but you could have an answer in 5 minutes. Hey, you need to buy such and such, or you go to this such and such person to get a part. That's huge, in our
instant gratification
that we have now, and social media is fed that. There's a lot of negative to it, but it's huge to keep the hobby alive. I've met so many people in the Midwest because of social media, and had made some really good friends of it.
I think one of the first times that you and I met, I bought an Oliver sign off of you.
Absolutely.
Off of Facebook. Yeah,
absolutely.
Way back when.
That's been at least 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember the auction where I bought it. And
I thought, God, how dumb is this guy that he's selling an Oliver sign? Why wouldn't he keep the Oliver sign?
Then you realize I'm a John Deere guy. And then we ran into each other on that ferry boat ride when you'd gone over to
out in
the middle.
I mean, what are those islands up there?
San Juan.
The San Juan Islands. So Kelly and I go on an appointment to it's the town
Forks.
where Twilight.
Yeah,
was
Forks,
filmed.
Washington.
Forks, Washington. So remote that it wasn't founded until 1946.
Well, and it's the very northwest corner of the contiguous United States.
You can't go a foot further west without being in the ocean.
No.
Yeah. And so we're coming back through the San Juan Islands on this big, ginormous ferry, and I look down, and here's a semi with a Waterloo boy on it. And I'm like, this is fate.
Yeah. A truckload of 2-cylinder tractors. Yeah. And it happened to be friend Brian and I, on our way back. Those tractors have been donated to our local museum, and we picked them up out there.
But how cool is it to be floating through San Juan Islands out on what is almost the ocean on a ferry boat, and there's John Deere tractors.
Yeah. And then my phone rings, and Are you on a ferry boat right now with the Waterloo boy? I'm like, yeah. Hi, what's going on?
Well, for a while, I was going to tell you I was tracking you by satellite, but
So yeah, I mean, I think the relationships that you can gain through relationships are a huge thing in this hobby anymore.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so much can come of it. Whether it's helping find a part, whether it's a job, it all. That's a huge part of it.
Yeah. Well, it's, like it or not, it's reality. Mm-hmm. And it's, to fight the way that society has moved to where, some of the younger generation accepts a digital relationship as a real relationship. Mm-hmm. And who's to say it's not? I mean, to fight it, it's like fighting the waves of the ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, you can sit there and bellyache about it all you want, but that's the way it's perceived.
Absolutely.
So all of a sudden, the 2-cylinder club goes from 10,000 people to 60,000 people. Mm-hmm. And that's not the only group.
No. You look at any other, there's lots of John Deere groups. There's model specific, groups, different brand groups, multiples of those. Early iron tractors, crawlers, whatever. The antique, being involved with antique trucks too. There's ATHS has a huge page there. All the stuff.
So not only are you a tractor nerd, you also got the truck thing going.
I wanted old trucks to haul my old tractors, and so
is that what got you into it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
And growing up. Also with the agriculture, we have timber. Log trucks, where I grew up, was right on a main highway coming from the mountains. And so log trucks and chip trucks. Here's a little kid watching these things go by right on the highway. And, Kenworth being a Northwest manufacturer, they always had the look that I liked. And so I had to have an old Kenworth truck to haul my old tractors.
Yeah. And
so that started, about 20 years ago. About 22 years ago, because it was before I got married. I bought my first one, and
I've found that's the best time to buy.
I'm very lucky that I have a supportive wife, and
Callie's over there shaking her head because she would like to buy an oil pole, you know. So
can't blame her there.
No, exactly.
Yeah, so got into old trucks, and I love the research aspect of it. I love the history, and so that's another outtake of coming from tractor side. Started studying Kenworth trucks and other brands too, but Kenworth is my main focus.
Yeah.
I've got a 52 Freightliner cab over called a Bubble Nose. Freightliner was made in Portland, so I have that tie. Rhonda really likes that truck, so that one could stay no problem.
Right.
She didn't question that very much.
We were talking about that earlier. There's, again, being in the Midwest, being a flatlander, corn on all sides. The grass looks greener out there on the West Coast on trucks because, there's cool trucks out there. It's where they were made.
Yeah.
I think they were used more prolifically there than they were in the Midwest.
Very possibly. I mean, and probably more year round. I mean, with your winters here.
Right.
Unless it was a freight truck,
Right.
But all the commodities that we haul out there, year round, and like I say, timber was the big industry. So, the big manufacturers, Peterbilt, Kenworth, Autocar, even Mack. Mack had some good dealers out there, and there are differences between West Coast Macks and East Coast Macks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, longer wheelbase. And a lot of it had to do with the regulations, the DOT regulations.
Sure.
Longer wheelbase trucks, hauling more weight. But you go to California, and there's a lot of single drive trucks pulling two small trailers versus long tandem truck with a long trailer. And but yeah, West Coast has some really cool trucks.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that Jake's going to do for us that, as he come on the team here is, we're going to help, he's going to help develop our truck division and hopefully we can turn up some super cool stuff. So like out in the wild, what's the coolest truck you ever found? I mean, that was just like, oh my God, it's Bigfoot.
Probably the coolest thing I found, I didn't buy it, but I found it. It was on Craigslist. It was a 40 Kenworth shovel nose is what they called because the nose of the grill tapered back.
Right.
Crew cab.
Oh.
It was ordered by Seattle Power and Light as a utility truck, and so it had a crew cab to haul the crew. A friend of mine ended up buying it, and it's rough, super rough. And he just recently sold it, and it came to Minnesota, I believe.
I'll be darned.
So West Coast trucks are coming back east. So, which is fine if somebody has the passion to take it on. More power to them.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I hate to see that stuff get scrapped, and so if somebody's going to save it, it's great.
Yeah. So where do you think? How do you think? Because you're so involved in social media, how do you think that's going to affect things going forward? In the hobby. I mean,
as long as you got to take it with a positive attitude, and use it as a tool.
You can't because it's. I've found on social media if you get 100 people in a room, in person. You're statistically probable you're going to have a knucklehead in there. And if you put 100 people online, statistically probable you're going to have a knucklehead on there. But now all of a sudden they've got a platform.
Yeah.
So it appears like they're more visible.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've had to learn to. I'm certainly not perfect, and I've probably said quite a few knucklehead things myself.
I have too.
But you take it with a grain of salt, and either you ignore them and let them do their rant and move on, and just you're not going to agree on everything. So I hope that people realize that they shouldn't be run off of it because you run into a few of them people. Absolutely,
because there is more good to be gained out of it. But
you can run into that at a show too.
You can.
How some of the old fuddy-duddies can be with a young kid. And I've been that kid before too, and I certainly hope I never turn into that old fuddy-duddy.
Right.
And because the hobby doesn't live on without new blood.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I'm lucky enough that I've got two boys that love this stuff. They got a big passion for it too.
Oh yeah.
And I feel very lucky, and they've got good friends that share the same passion.
So what are you guys working on now? I mean, what's in Jake's shop?
Too much stuff of other people. I got a Cat 30 I'm working on for a guy. Got an engine out of a Kenworth shovel nose in there that I'm going through fixing up for a guy. As far as my own project, I've got a 31 GPO John Deere. It's all original, came from the original family. It needs a mechanical restoration, but it's definitely worth fixing. Full steel, got the heavy citrus front wheels on it, the cast front wheels.
Oh, yeah.
And then my boys have their projects in there. Emmett's got his 71 Chevy four-wheel drive Cummins conversion project going on there.
Oh, that's every young man's dream right there.
I'm really proud of him. He's taken it on. He's done 90% of the work. Youngest son, Jack, he's got dirt bike and four-wheeler projects in there. And, I feel very blessed that they're willing to share the old man's crazy hobby.
Yeah, that is. I mean, that's awesome. So like what's on the wish list? Give me a few bucket list tractors, Jake's bucket list tractors.
There's a lot of common stuff on the bucket list because I've had a UOPN Minneapolis Moline.
Oh yeah.
And that was cool, but for me that's not the tractor to have.
Yeah.
I like nice original stuff. I'd like to have a nice original of most every brand, just an average row crop, Oliver 66 or 77, a super, something like that. A wide front, nice original.
Yeah.
Original stage 2 IHH. I like that size of tractor, and
you like and appreciate that original.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I hate to see good original stuff.
I mean, I'm that way myself. I don't care. I really don't care what it is if it's a really killer original.
Yeah, and even old repaint, 50-year-old repaint.
We're starting to get that patina to it again. Yeah,
I like stuff to take. I like to take it out and use it.
Yeah,
have fun with it. I don't like to worry about scratches, and I'd like to find a nice Deere gas standard someday, 60, 70, 720, something like that, and they'll turn up. I'm in no hurry.
I like rare stuff, and I like different stuff, and I've got quite a bit of that. And recently a guy said, well, what's the last tractor you bought? And I said, a Super C Farmall. Yeah.
Okay.
And he just stood there and stared at me. He goes, why would you do that? I said, because it is the nicest Super C original paint I've ever seen.
Yeah. I'm looking at a DC4 case. I mean,
that's below Super C.
Well, until you see this tractor.
Right.
That, all original tires, probably less than 1,000 hours, front wheel weights, the battery box, the battery cover is still there. It's one of those tractors it's hard to walk away from. Just because you don't find it like that.
Yeah, because it's just that nice.
Absolutely.
And if you do focus in on stuff that is that nice, it's actually hard to find.
Absolutely.
I mean, you'll go all year, and if you run across 2 or 3 tractors that kind of fit that criteria, then you're count yourself fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And they turn up in the West. There's stuff that turns up every sale. It seems like, or even through Facebook or local newsletter or something, magazine stuff turns up, and you just got to be ready to make the deal.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll wrap it up for this episode of Old Iron Talk. How'd we do, Callie? All right. Okay. We got the stamp of approval, so maybe we'll be back and do it again sometime. So thanks a bunch, and we'll catch you on the next podcast.